Okay, let's go ahead and start talking about the second part of the marine fish video lecture. We left off talking about sharks. So sharks, top level predators in a marine ecosystem, they are essential for healthy marine ecosystems. Big powerful jaws with triangular teeth with serrations. Most of the sharks are going to be carnivores. Some feed on other fish, feed on marine mammals. Others will feed on crustaceans and mollusks. The largest fish of all, the whale shark, actually is a filter feeder. So it feeds on plankton and things floating in the water. The filter feeder sharks or filter feeders are going to use their gill rakers for filtering water. And then these lateral lines and ampullae of Lorenzini detect electrical currents in the water. So those little dots, those little holes on the bottom of the snout of the shark, those are the ampullae of Lorenzini. That's how they're detecting electrical stimulus and picking up the movement of prey species in the water. So incredible fish when we look at adaptations or lifestyles. But most importantly, these guys are essential for the food chain. You take sharks out of the ecosystem, and you're screwing up the entire ocean food chain. And sadly, we are killing millions of sharks a year. Even in the Caribbean, we see shark finning happening, and it's a major ecological problem on a global scale. So picture here just kind of gives you an overview of the spectrum of sharks. The number of shark species is increasing constantly. Some sources say 400, 450, almost 500 different species, because we're finding new shark species, especially as we go deeper and deeper and deeper in the ocean. New shark species are being discovered. But for us in the Caribbean, nurse sharks are one of the main sharks. Those are primarily eating mollusks and crustaceans off the bottom of the ocean. And then Caribbean reef sharks are going to be the other major shark that can be found in the Caribbean. Sometimes we'll have hammerheads. That's a glorious day if you can see a hammerhead while you're snorkeling or diving in the Caribbean. All right, so cartilaginous fish. The other group of cartilaginous fish I want to mention are the rays. Now, what's cool about the rays, their pectoral fins. Pectoral. The pectoral fins are broad and flattened. They are big, broad and flattened extensions of the body. It makes them look like they have big, giant wings. They have 5 pairs of gill slits. In the mouth are ventral, meaning if you look at where their gill slits in their mouth are, ventral, belly, bottom. Okay, dorsal would be the back, but they're on the belly of the rays. So when we look at the lifestyle of the rays, their mouth is straight down, and the teeth of the rays, instead of being those serrated teeth we saw when we were looking at the sharks, the mouth of the rays, the teeth have actually evolved into this kind of plate-like structure that I'm trying to draw here. And if you look at the tooth structure, it's these two thickened cartilaginous plates that act as a grinding surface. So instead of ripping and tearing and shredding, when they bite into something, they grind it. They just kind of smash it and grind it down. So large flattened teeth for grinding and crushing. So primarily mollusks and crustaceans. The whip-like tail. defense and balance, not attacking. So that tail is there to help balance as they're swimming through the water. It acts kind of like a rudder structure to help keep them moving in the right direction. And then those big paired pectoral fins flap almost like wings of a bird and give them lift and propulsion. The tail, though, sometimes will have a spine on the tail, and that spine is barbed, and sometimes it contains a poison gland. Oh, poison. Okay, so that can be a bit problematic when we look at the tail of the ray, especially if they accidentally spear a person. The word of advice whenever you're walking in the sand, because many of the rays will burrow into the sand and hide, shuffle your feet. Don't pick them up and step down, because you don't want to step on top of a ray, because then that barb will swing over and the ray is defending itself. So shuffle your feet, kind of do a shuffle walk and stir up the sand. If you do come in contact with a ray, you're going to hit it from underneath and cause it to scoot forward and swim away. Less likely it's going to stab down with that tail. Okay, so cartilaginous fish, the chondrichthyes. Now we want to get into the bony fish, or what we call the osteichthyes. Okay, so basic features here. They have a skeleton of bone. Big feature across all of the bony fish. Thickness and design of the skeleton, there will be some variation, but they all have skeletons of bone. They all have these flat bony scales. Now the scales can be what we call ctenoid scales or cycloid scales. Depends on the shape of the scale. They have a bony operculum. That's that flap that covers the gills. So if we look at our barracuda down here, this structure right here is the operculum. It's literally a flap of bone, and it opens and closes, and right underneath it are the gills. The swim bladder, incredibly important feature in the bony fish. So they have what looks like a little life vest inside of them. The swim bladder fills with gas that allows them flotation. Alright, so the sharks lack that. That's why sharks constantly have to be moving around to get water across their gills. But with the bony fish, they can sit there, just kind of hover in position with that swim bladder. It's like, again, like floating with a life jacket on. And then the other major feature is this thing called a lateral line. So the barracuda, again, is a great example. If you look, there's this line kind of going down the center of the body this way. This is a line of neural structures that enables it to sense movement. So the sharks are using that ampullae of Lorenzini structures we were talking about to detect electrical signals and impulses. They also have the lateral line. Bony fish as well have a lateral line for detection of movement, water currents, electrical signals, things like that. So some really key, cool adaptations we find in the bony fish that make them a bit different than the cartilaginous fish. So bony fish, osteichthyes. Now when it comes to the body shape, there's just such a diversity here. Bony fish are incredibly diverse. When we look at their body, the shape varies based on the habitat and the lifestyle that they lead. So are they a carnivorous fish? Are they a herbivore, an omnivore, a bottom feeder, a midwater hunter, etc.? Huge diversity. I'll show you that in a minute here. Coloration, big spectrum here on coloration. Some of them use coloration for defense, others use it indicates age, reproductive, status. Some of them have a thing called counter shading, in which they use it to help blend in so they can be better predators or avoid being eaten. So a lot of variation in coloration. Now when it comes to movement, characteristically, bony fish do this S-shaped contractions of their body, kind of wiggling side to side. If you guys have seen a snake move, very similar when we look at bony fish swimming versus comparing it to the movement of a snake. Feeding. The mouth reflects the diet, and I'll show you examples. There's mouths that are used to grind and crush coral, mouths used to pick off algae, mouths used to eat other fish. Huge diversity, but its mouth reflects the diet. And then the digestion, complete digestion system, their digestive system. They will have digestive glands that produce the necessary enzymes for digestion. But a complete digestive system that enables them to maintain their individual lifestyles and feeding and things like that. So, okay, so let's take a look at each of these in a little bit more detail here. Swimming pattern. I can mention the S-shaped swimming pattern. The bony fish use a swim bladder. Sharks don't have it. It's found in the bony fish here. And what they do is that swim bladder, that gives them lift. That acts as a big balloon or a big life jacket so they don't sink. Sharks tend to sink when they're not in motion, but those big pectoral fins is what will provide lift for the sharks. So with our bony fish, swim bladder is absent in sharks, found in bony fish. Let's just call it the life jacket. Okay, so it inflates, deflates based upon how much lift they need. So this is a problem if you catch a bony fish deep in the ocean and pull it up hundreds of meters. That swim bladder expands, and that often kills the bony fish. You'll see a swim bladder actually expands so much it protrudes out the mouth of the fish, kills the fish. So divers, when we're diving, you can't go from 150 feet straight to the surface because of gas expansion. That's the same thing, that same problem a bony fish has, is if you pull it up from 150 feet down and you expand the swim bladder, it kills the shark, or kills the fish. Sharks, though, because they lack them, can pull them up. They can go up and down the water column a bit easier. Okay, so we'll see that a little bit of a difference there between the bony fish and the chondrichthyes. Okay, now fish gills. That is a big feature on the bony fish we want to mention. The gill arch provides support for the entire gill structure. So let me get rid of the gill arch, provides support. And the gill rakers of the gill arch and the gill filaments are what trail behind the gill arch. So you got this gill arch and then gill rakers and gill filaments that provide surface area for the diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now within the gill arch and the gill rakers and all of these structures are massive amounts of capillary beds. This is where the diffusion takes place, in these capillaries. So as long as water is flowing across it, oxygenation is occurring, fish are going to be happy.